and welcome. This is episode 1, season 1 of UK Cowboys TV. I'm your host, Mike Poland, and I'm here with host number 2. You all know her, you all love her. She is one of the co-founders of UK Cowboys and queen of the team. It's Lauren Draper-Wood. All right, LD, how's things there?
Woo,
all
good,
excited?
good. I'm melting, but apart from that, woo.
I know, it is boiling. Proper thunderstorm last night as well. Insane.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll crack on with this. But you can see them eagerly waiting as well to talk to you. As we will have for every show, we've got a team waiting in anticipation with a plethora, and I thesaurus that word, of Cowboys knowledge and opinions. This week being the pilot show, we have everyone involved today. In this particular part, we've got the other co-founder and godfather of UK Cowboys. We've got Jamie Smith with us. And rounding off the show in this segment, we've got Richard Jones, a.k.a. Jonesy. You all right as well, guys?
Happening, son?
Yeah, good to see you all.
Yeah, here we go. Right, so I'm just going to wrap it on for a little bit, explain a bit about the show. Then we get some pre-camp talk. All right, so what we're looking to do as we wind things up on this show, we're going to do one show a week for everyone, just to get involved with, get everybody on UK Cowboys involved as well. Me and Lauren will take on the hosting duties with the team rotating. And then as we look to change that to 2 shows a week, then we'll have the post-game show hosted by myself with a few tired faces, which I'm sure will amuse the American contingent that might be watching. And then the pre-game show hosted by Lauren, both with the team helping to chat out the show for about 20 to 15 minutes. But obviously, in the past month, we have been working on the show, prodding, talking to various people. And yes, for your viewing and listening pleasure, we've got a full lineup of special guests ranging from big players in the Cowboys community. Some you know, some you might not, but that's the whole idea of the show. We've got a few members of Cowboys Media, cowboys.com to come on and talk throughout the season with us. We've even got a special from NFL Network that's agreed to give us their time. And we've even got Cowboys players who've given us the thumbs up to come and join us. So keep an eye out for that as we continue to grow the show and get those fantastic Cowboys figures over to talk with us. But on our agenda this week, it's all about training camp. All right. So we're finally here, guys, right? Camp, for most people, marks the start of it all. But before we get into this, how's everyone's off-season been?
Terrible.
Long?
Drought. Yeah. It's been a drought.
I think just like the reaction and the faces say it all. Just
yeah. The first time in months there's actual news other than just this person's been sighted at this place. It's like I don't care about that. What do they look like? How quick can they run? Will they catch a bull? Okay, good.
Rewind.
Yeah, basically.
The highlight of my season's been that my Carolina Reapers are coming through.
Oh, don't start about the Carolina Reapers again. God, man. Keep them to yourself. I do not want any. Keep it to yourself.
All right then, guys. So let's get the training camp all rolling before we end up running out of time with all my gabbling on you. So, Jamie, me old pal, right? Who's your top 3 guys this week that you personally are looking forward to seeing in Oxnard? Your top 3.
I couldn't narrow it to 3 as such. One of them was Tony Pollard for definite, I think, with all the Zeke issues. Cowboys obviously rated him very highly. With Zeke potentially holding out, it's good to see what we've got if that does happen. And then I narrowed it down the wide receiver core and the tight end core as well, because as we all know, Dak needs them to be on fire, and with Jason Witten coming back, hopefully it'll get the rest of the tight ends stepping up their game. So yeah, Pollard and then the wide receiver and tight ends for me.
Okay, so more positional group than actual. Then. All right, that's it. So then, all right, Jonesy, who's your top 3 then, brother?
I've gone for a bit of the low-hanging fruit, to be honest, mate. I couldn't resist it. So first one I gone, John Vea Johnson. Obviously, he turned a lot. Oh, we've lost Loz.
It's all right. She'll come back.
That's fine. John Vea Johnson. He's a bit low-hanging fruit. He's obviously turned a lot of heads in OTAs. He flashed quite a bit, but looked like it could have been more than a flash, which is a bit strange to say with OTAs. But he's turned a lot of heads. and there's reasoning behind that. So if he can stay consistent and contribute, he's in with a really, really good shot, especially with what's happened in the past couple of days. Next one, sort of following on from Jamie again, in terms of but more player side, is Blake Jarwin. Obviously, aside from Jason Witten, he's probably the only tight end that really contributed pretty well last season. Obviously, he came up against injury after his hat trick, but before then, he was really starting to come on. He was playing really damn well, in fairness. So his progression will be really good to see, because really, even with Witten back, how long is he going to be back? We need someone behind him, and aside from him, there is really nobody else on the roster that can sort of take that spot.
So you don't feel confident in Rico then?
Not really, no. I've always been Team Rico. I've always wanted it to happen, but it's one of those things of like, yeah, it's amazing if it happens, but it never will. It's not. I don't think it's going to be that sort of dream situation. I think we got really, really lucky with 54. I don't think we're going to get that lucky again anytime soon, anyway. But the number one I really want to see is Travis Frederick, because that I think is going to be the
name too.
probably the biggest impact on the team as a whole, because given obviously just how much of a force he is, you could see last year the impact that had on the running game and obviously the wider game as a whole on offense. That is going to be crucial. If he can get anywhere near how he used to play, that is going to be a big, big, big plus for this team this year.
Second, and he's got if I just add, he's got a brilliant first name. Some of you might understand. But obviously now going to my co-host here, LD. Who's your top three?
Well, I mean, he's not really, a big standout name, but a certain Dak Prescott, I'm pretty keen to see, because he seems to be. He's got a bit of a history of not particularly performing well in practice, in camp, in anything that's not a big game under the lights. So it's always good to see whether he's changed at all. Witten as well. There's reports he's a lean, mean fighting machine. Apparently looking a bit trimmer. I don't know if he's lost the hairpiece that he had on ESPN or not, but we'll see.
A bit more aerodynamic.
And an actual position group, the safeties, because I think we'll talk about those in part 2. But I think we've got a constant battle going on there, and we need a real standout guy, and we didn't perhaps go and get one when we thought we would. So good to see what we've got in the couple of young D-backs that we drafted, and can they go in and compete straight away or not?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask a question then, but you quickly jumped back in there and said we'll talk about the safeties in part 2, so we'll save that for then. But I tell you what, we'll go back to you, Lauren. The final question for this particular part anyway, which rookies from this year's draft do you think needs a good camp to make that final 53? So we're looking at the bottom end, perhaps. Yeah,
probably. Is it Jelks, the defensive end?
Yeah.
I think we've got. We had a really good D last year. I know we've lost Gregory, but we've brought in Robert Quinn. It's possible that we might get Gregory back. I just think he's going to have to really do something to get in and compete with our defensive ends. Taco's probably on his last chance saloon.
He is back.
Yeah.
You can include him, yeah. Yeah,
so,
all right.
Joke, probably.
You got him? That's it?
Yeah, he's the one.
Yeah. All right, then. Go on then, Rich. Take us on again.
Similar position, really. I got someone that I think could make it. Is a bit closer at the depth chart, really. Joe Jackson. Obviously, I think at the minute he's behind Mike Jackson, probably. He's a bit more dynamic, really. So he's someone that we need. Obviously, we've got Tank on the left side. We're hoping Quinn's going to play very well. I actually personally think 94 will come back this season. I really, really do think that. Just generally the way the league is going. I've just got a bit of a gut feeling. I think he will come back and play at some point this season. If he does, then obviously Joe Jackson's going to struggle a little bit more, purely because you've got him, you've got Quinn, you've got everyone else that's already on the line anyway. But if he does have a good camp, he is going to be probably on that bubble of players they might keep if he does have a really good camp and if he does play really well, that they keep purely because he's good and they don't want to lose him to anyone else. So if he has a good camp, I really think he'll stick around. He may well make the 53 this year. If he doesn't, then I think he will be very much likely to next year, because I don't think Taco is going to bear fruit.
So you think maybe a practice squad guy then?
Potentially. Hopefully he does make the larger roster, but it's going to be a push. I think he could, but he very, very much needs to show up big.
Okay, I'm gonna make sure I make a note of them so we can come back to them in a later camp show or whatever, going through pre-season, see how your guys are coming along. Jamie, then, who have you got out of the rookie class, mate?
Well, Rich stole my thunder, and I had Joe Jackson as well. And I was going to throw a Shamon in there, but so seeing as he stole my thunder, maybe not so much as needs a good camp to make the roster, but
yeah,
I think Tristan Hill, just for the fact that I think obviously he'll make the roster, but as we know, this team is craving somebody in the secondary, and there was a lot of very good defensive backs left in the draft when we was on the board. And as we all know, this fan base can be absolutely horrendous when it comes to draft picks. So I think he needs to hit the ground running to show why the Cowboys went that way instead of in the secondary. Because if not, he's going to get absolutely hammered, and he's going to be called a bust straight away. And I just think that he's not going to even get the chance with a fan base. So I'll say Hill, but more in terms of he needs to hit the ground running. He'll make the roster, but I think he's got to show why the Cowboys went D-line instead of secondary.
So do you think maybe with him it's more of a case of not so much what his production will be, more that what we could have in relation and how that the production of those guys that we could have taken, are they better or worse than Hill's in order for him to bust or a win?
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, because I think everybody was hoping, like I say, I think we were all talking draft night, wasn't it? We were all like looking at certain teams and we were like, there's so many safeties there. And once the war room went to Rod, you just knew what the pick was going to be. So there was a lot of people that wasn't happy, but I liked the pick. I can understand why they want to shore up that D line. It's been pretty good for us for the last few years. It's just more in terms of keeping the fan base happy, and not having to listen to we should have gone with safety. There was that safety there. There was that safety there.
Kind of like the Zeke with Ramsey sort of deal, like that. You know, that's what's going to come back to bite you, because we should have taken him, or it was he, like that sort of to and fro that you get with the fan base,
I'd say that though, me and Lauren were pretty happy with the Zeke pick. I know we were all jumping up and down, weren't we, on phone, screaming and shouting.
I don't think anyone argues with that, but I mean more in relation to the other players that could have been taken, and that you're always going to be judging the play that you've taken from the guys that could have been taken. But that's the draft, at the end of the day, it's a lottery pick. Yeah. Right. Anyway, looks like looking at the time there, we've run out of time. That went by pretty quick, actually. So, guys, been fun kicking this off, getting things rolling. We'll have a bit of sort out. See you all next week. See what I did there. But that is part 1 of UK Cowboys TV. We'll see you in part 2. All right, Jamie, Jonesy, thank you very much, dude.
Cheers, guys.
Later.
Thanks, man. Cheers.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to part 2. We have lost the first 2 and gained another 2 superstars. So we have got Joe with us and Brian.
Hi, guys.
Yeah, folks.
2 of our long-hanging UK Cowboys fans. So they'll be joining us each week, alternating with Rich and Jamie to share their thoughts on all things UK Cowboys. So time is of the essence. We'll get straight stuck in. We're going to have a chat about our player expectations and also the actual draftees that we've taken this year. So kicking off with our player expectations, probably the biggest news we had this off-season was the return of a certain number 82. Everyone's a little bit excited by that. I am so long over the Rico experiment, so bring back 82 and let's get him involved. Joe, what was your thoughts about bringing him back? What can we expect about 82 coming back.
I'm hoping he's a bit more of a safety net for Dak, but my concern is the impact he's going to have on Jarwin, Schultz. I mean, Jarwin last season, was it against the Giants that he scored his triple touchdown? I think it was.
Yeah.
I think that's going to impede him a little bit. I mean, hopefully he's coming back as a bit more of a coaching role for the final season. Might get 2 more seasons out of him, but hoping a bit more of a developing role for helping the younger guys develop a bit. But for me, it's a great move. Can't wait. Hopefully, a bit more of a safety net for Dak.
Yes. Same for you, Brian. Happy with the addition?
Yeah, no, 100%. Delighted to get Jason back. For me, we didn't get enough out of our tight ends last year. They were very patchy, and when Dak needed that safety valve, wasn't there. So I can definitely see Jason being a coach trying to bring the 2 guys up. Like Jarwin, for an undrafted free agent, has done okay. I was a little bit disappointed with Schultz last year. Like, the Stanford is a pro style offense. I thought he'd fit straight in, and he didn't. So hopefully he'll improve.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at the numbers, and actually the 4 tight ends we had on the roster combined only did a little bit better than Whittle on his own in his last season with us. So, they got more yards combined. So Whitton had 560 yards for 63 receptions, and combined Rico, Schultz, Swaim and Jarwin had 710 yards for 68 receptions. And I think Whitton got more touchdowns in that time. So I think that red zone threat is going to be the key. And like Joe touched on, the safety net for Dak. And Romo says it's all going to be good, so that's fine.
That's the main thing.
You've got to listen to Romo.
What do you reckon,
Romo.
Mike? Good move?
Yeah, you touched on briefly what I was thinking when you said about Whitton, is that basically Whitton last year, everyone complained about the red zone efficiency, and in the red zone, there was just a giant Whitton-sized hole in there, and you could see it was obvious. Especially like the tight end as well in this game, when it's moving very into the passing game now, and it keeps moving onward with the passing side of the whole game. So the tight end really becomes the odd man out. So, and you see it, like look at the Patriots. All right, you can say, yeah, Gronk, and Gronk is just like superhuman, but it's the position as well. The tight end is the odd position. You get a good tight end, and it completely expands the offense.
Yeah.
In terms of what it means for the other tight ends, I think with Jason Witten being it, I don't know until we can see a bit more in camp where he's going to slot in the entire game. For me, if I was going to put a peg in it, I'd say for the other tight ends, not so much Schultz because he's more of an inline blocker, but for Jarwin, I think it just more than anything, it takes away red zone opportunities for him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about it, really. That's all I've got on that one.
No, very good, very good. I think probably like the major sort of like bonus point for us last year was our defensive line, and the defense as a whole kind of surpassed everyone's expectations. Rod Marinelli's a god anyway, I think, to most Cowboys fans, and bringing in Chris Richard certainly boosted. He got more from those DBs than probably what anyone expected. Looking specifically at that D line, do you think we can improve on last year? We've obviously paid big money to Tank. Questionable. We're going to be losing Gregory, may or may not, depends what Goodall decides on his wheel of fortune. And Quinn, who I'm personally really excited to add. What are your thoughts, Brian? You think better than last year? You think we'll do more?
Yeah, I do. Like, I mean, Tank is obviously going to take all the focus, but I think like Robert Quinn coming off the edge, and definitely for me, Kerry Hyder coming up the middle. Like, he had 8 sacks for Detroit in the last couple of years. Like, so I think he's going to be sneaky good. I'd expect him to come through and make the 53. So I think it's going to be even better than last year.
Yeah, I think we've got a lot of competition in that defensive tackle position this year. Woods kind of like blew everyone away with how he fought. But it was probably, I think our defensive line perhaps let us down a little bit in the Rams game. They kind of ran all over us. I think, Tank couldn't do everything on his own, and we needed that other a couple of other players to step up, and we didn't have that. Do
Yeah.
you think Quinn can be the man, Joe?
100%. I mean, when you look at Tank now, following on from what Brian was saying, teams are going to be focusing in on him, and it's just going to allow Quinn that extra bit of time, a bit more focus on. I mean, looking back at his stats, 2018 was 6.5, 2017 8.5 sacks. Hopefully, we get the 2013 of 19 sacks, Quinn. Fingers crossed, but I think he's one of our players to watch this season, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the perhaps the younger guys coming through, Mike? What do you reckon? You're a college buff with the rookies we've got in the camp. Do you think any of them can push in and take a spot on the D line?
Yeah, I mean, like we touched briefly on it. Well, funnily enough, Jamie did in the last part, if you like. He mentioned Tristan Hill. Now he is that's literally, it's got Rob Marinelli's fingerprints all over it. That is definitely, he's gone in there. And like, even after the draft, you comments, from Chris Richard saying, no, I like the pick. I wanted them to make that pick. But we also mentioned him before, and he's actually another one that I'm quite looking forward to, which has been mentioned, was Jalen Jelks. The guy was just a complete animal. And he's so under the radar. But we also got, on top of what we did drafted, but who we didn't draft in the undrafted free agent market, picked up some absolute steals in terms of defensive line. They're going to be, but I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but in terms of what that does for camp, since we're on camp talk as well, is it creates competition. And everybody knows, you create competition, you get better out of people. So then they become better, they train better, they get, better at the position as well, which just brings everybody up. And it's just a continual spiraling up effect of that position. But more than anything, I think when you look at the defensive line, what they've got there, and then you include the linebackers that you've got, that I would go as far to say that a front seven, like, you try and find a better front seven in the NFC, certainly. Like, there's not that many out there that have got a box as strong as that not only of what they got primarily, but because Rob Marinelli loves to rotate his defense, he does it quite a lot. But when you look what's behind everybody else, it's just a continual conveyor belt of defensive talent in that front seven.
Yeah, and I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago, Marinelli had a defensive line that's called the Orphans. They were kind of like all the nobodies from around the league that we were having to plug and play and see what you got. And now I think we've got some really established guys that are making a name for themselves in the NFL that perhaps we haven't had since like the DeMarcus Ware era on that defense. So.
And you can see why at the end of the day, the defense, like the game always starts at the trenches. It on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. It all starts at the front. And if your front's better than theirs, you win. That's the way it basically works, Yeah.
Right, moving on from our D-line, going backwards a little bit in the field. We, of course, couldn't have our very own Brian Gaynor on the show without touching on a particular position, the safety. So, we know we've got Jeff Heath, but what are we looking at with our safeties? Everyone was crying out for Earl to come in and save the day and be our hero, but thank God we didn't pay that kind of salary.
Absolutely.
I think we've pretty much all agreed on that. Who have we got and what can we expect? Chris Richard's got to work his magic, or are we okay?
Yeah, like I think Chris will work his magic. Like, I mean, I like the pickup of George Iloka. He's no superstar, but he's a very solid player, and I think it's Donovan Olumba who we picked up in the 6th round. I think he's going to be sneaky good. For me, and God, it kills me to say it, I expect Jeff to take a reduced role at safety this year. I'd expect himself and Iloka to split reps. I still think there's a possibility we might look at bringing in Eric Berry if he's available and if the money is right later on, depending on how injuries go and the camp itself goes. But I think we're still okay at safety, and maybe it's something we'll address in the next year's draft. Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Joe? You in on Eric Berry, or?
I think Brian's kind of said everything really that can be said about that. I mean, for me, most Cowboys, I think Heath's a very Marmite player. Either you absolutely love him or you want him replaced. I'm a bit of a fan, to be honest. Undrafted free agent. He's always been that textbook underdog player. Will get down and dirty, dig as hard as it can, and push himself to the top. So I think competition there, hopefully, is going to push him up his little game. The only concern I had last season, he wasn't great against the run. So that's part of his game he definitely needs to improve on. Yeah. But hopefully, again, with that competition, and like Brian said, sharing the snaps with George, fingers crossed, we can kind of shore that part of the defence up a bit.
Yeah, I think probably the key, I think, with the safeties that are coming in is we've got quite a lot of safeties on the team. And if you can play a different role, so, you know, you look at Kayvon Frazier, he's not especially a starter, but he's a special team demon. So, you know, he's not really going to be going anywhere off this roster. So if you're going to come in, you're going to need to be either doing something on special teams or, you know, bringing something to the table that we haven't already got. Who's your DB to look out for, Mike, on the team?
Well, I've got three, but three in terms of what I'm looking at to create that defensive back strength, if you like. I want to see Awuzie sort of stepping up. Like, what's funny with Awuzie is he's always in position. When you see him man on man, the guy is always in the position. He's right on the wide receiver's hip, and you know the wide receiver will try and make a move, and he doesn't bite. He's on that wide receiver. But when the ball, so he does the hard part. But when the ball gets to the wide receiver, it's like he doesn't seem. It's like he's there, but he doesn't make a play on the ball. He's done the hard part with sticking with his man, but he's just not getting to the ball to knock it away. He had interception opportunities and he missed them just because he didn't get to the ball. It's really strange. I don't know. It's maybe something he'll get with confidence and in time and experience, maybe. So that's what I want to look at with him in camp. Anthony Brown, like, this is a tricky one with him. I put him in there more of in terms of what do you do with him? Because, like, does Byron Jones stay next year? Do they pay the money to keep him? Because then if he does, do you want Anthony Brown to walk or do you bring him back in? You know, do you pay him back? And then my last guy, I want to see how Chris Richard uses him, is Jordan Lewis, because he was pretty much an odd man out, but we know the talent's there.
Yeah. I like him, but he just doesn't seem to be a Chris Richard guy, does he?
He's not the Chris Richard mold in terms of what he looks for. But, you know, like, look what he did. He won us again. That guy won us a game. Like, what he done, you know, it was insane. But, so, you know, the talent's there. He's got the playability, you know. It's like, it's almost like as if Chris is trying to figure out how to use him, but he doesn't know how because he's not the typical guy he goes for. So I want to see if he manages to use him in any way, you know. If not, I think he's going. He's walked. He go as early as this year.
There's been a lot of talk that his name's been dangled in trade talk previously. Whether that's legitimate or not, I don't know. But it certainly sounds like he could be not necessarily on the bubble, but perhaps struggling for his spot in the roster, in the team as such, starting team. I think we're probably pushing a little bit for time now as we got on, but let's just have a quick chat about draftees. Each of your favourite draft picks this year. Start off with you, Joe. Who was your fave?
I'm going to get in there nice and early and go with our running back, Tony Pollard. Looking at his average yards, I think it was about 7.1 on an average. And as well, he can catch the ball. So he's perfect fit in for Zeke if obviously Zeke needs a break, needs to come out of the game for a bit. Easy to slot in there. Everything you hear from the Cowboys media is the one to look out for. So I've got really no one else I could have gone for apart from him as number one pick.
Okay, Brian, what about you?
For me, it's got to be Conor McGovern. Like, I nearly came out of my chair when we announced that pick because I'm definitely looking towards 2020. And for me, I think Lyle is going to he's going to be cut or he's going to walk at the end of 2019. And I'm kind of expecting Connor Williams will go to right tackle. Conor McGovern will come in up the middle. And he's an absolute mauler. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if McGovern actually replaced Connor Williams in 2019. It wouldn't surprise me at all. So I was delighted with that pick.
Yeah, I think we've had such a we've obviously been blessed with our offensive line, but we're just starting now to kind of juggle around the pieces a little bit and see how we're going to slot people in. Obviously, we've got Travis coming back, which is major, but we've got McGovern, Collins could be on the way, just to see how things are going to work out with Williams. Be interesting to watch. And what about you, Mike? Who was yours?
I mentioned mine a bit earlier, but one I'm interested, like I mentioned, Tristan Hill, Michael Jackson, Jalen Jenks. They're my three. I'm quite interested in seeing, is watching them through college. I mean, especially I can't explain enough how talented Jalen Jenks is. I mean, he was amazing. But the one I am particularly looking at camp that I want to see is the battle more than anything between Webber and Pollard, to see how they make that depth chart with how they fit in. Is Webber going to be the RB2? Is Pollard the third down back? Is it the other way around? Is it that Pollard is just on special teams taking kicks and those sort of plays, and he's not really on the running back side? I don't know, but that's what camp's all about, finding out where these guys slot in.
I know, and I mean, if we could carry them all, we would, wouldn't we? But that's not possible. Cool. Well, I think we've probably hit our time now, so we'll wrap things up. But thanks for joining us, Brian, Joe. It was good chatting with you, and I'm sure we're going to have plenty more to talk about as the weeks unravel. And I hope all of you that have tuned in have enjoyed the show. Do share it amongst your friends. We are UK Cowboys, the original and #1 fan group in the UK of the Dallas Cowboys fans. You know it, we know it. Share the love and tell your friends. And we'll catch you next time. See you later.
Let's go, Cowboys.
Nice.